everybody, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be going over the introduction to leash pressure. So we're going to be using Rush here. He's about 9 months old, and a couple things before we get started. What I want you to make sure you have on you for equipment is some kind of a leash and your high value treats. Now I'm going to be using a clicker in this video, so that way it's very clear as to when I'm marking and when I'm rewarding. I'm using a slip leash. Now you guys can use a slip leash. You guys can just hook up to your dog's flat collar. That's totally fine. If you guys are a little bit more advanced, you can use a prong collar. That's something that we're going to do later on to transfer this leash pressure from a slip leash to a prong collar. Just at the early stages, I would recommend either a flat collar or some kind of a slip leash because it's just a little bit less intense, a little bit of an easier problem for your dogs to solve, which is kind of what we're getting at. The idea behind this, though, is we're starting to teach communication through the leash, and this has so many transferable skills later on in life, like e-collar conditioning, walking skills later on, and then out in public access, or when there's stimulation going on, and I'm in a conversation. This is one real-world functional example. I'm in the middle of a conversation. I can apply leash pressure and get my dog to sit or lay down or settle. And so, great skill to be able to teach. As far as where your dog should be at before we get started, we want to make sure that your dog understands the sit and the down command. They have to have an understanding of that command, of that position, before we get started. So this is where we should be at. Rush, sit, yes. Down, yes. So because my dog understands that, break, we can start doing this leash pressure game, okay? The sequence is going to be really important at this early stages. So the sequence for this specific skill is going to start with leash pressure. It's going to be leash pressure, and then it's going to be your verbal command, and we'll talk about the differences of the commands, and then it's going to be release of pressure once your dog accomplishes that command. Now the pressure itself is very important because not only are we teaching the dog how to get out of the pressure, meaning we turn the pressure on, but they are in charge of turning the pressure off. It's also directional, meaning if I tell my dog to sit, I do not want to be doing leash pressure in a downward direction, to the sides. I want that leash pressure to be vertical, straight up between their ears, so that way it causes their head to come up, and then that will in turn make their butt go down. Same thing with the down command. I want that pressure to be from their chin, under their neck, straight down to the ground. That's how we turn the down pressure off. Later on, if we're directionally moving them, it only makes sense to give them pressure to the right, they go to the right. Pressure to the left, they go to the left. So we want to be very conscious of what direction we're giving our dog pressure, because that absolutely matters, and we want them to understand how to turn it off and what to accomplish in order to do so. All right, so to get started here, let's go, Brush. I get my dog up, I don't need to tell them anything. Again, the sequence is going to look something like this. So I'm going to start leash pressure, sit. Good boy. That's as complicated as it needs to be. I can start leash pressure, and it is gentle pressure. I am doing gentle pressure upwards. You can see Rush is not uncomfortable with it, but he also doesn't know what it means. So he's staring at me. I give a sit. He does it. I release the pressure, mark and reward. The releasing of the pressure is a very clear signal to him. That's how you turn it off. Come. Sit. Good boy. Now when you're starting off doing this, I know I'm out in a driveway. You do not have to be out in a driveway in a busy area like this. It may cause your dogs to be distracted. If you don't have good focus on them, if they don't have great obedience yet, then go inside and do this drill inside. Come. Sit. Remember from our marker training class, come. I can click when I want to, and then it gives me that extra second to go ahead and get the food out calmly, bring it to him. It doesn't need to be rushed or anything like that, so it doesn't need to be anything crazy along the way. Good boy. Pressure on. Sit. And for your dog, even giving them this to this is a world of difference of pressure. So be cognizant of how much pressure we're giving them, right? So if we give them this, they're feeling that. I'll reward that because he went up to the sit. So pressure on, pressure off. It doesn't have to be much. Come. And notice how I'm constantly manipulating my leash too to get it set up for success. I don't want to be over leveraged where I'm gripping way down here and now I have to look like the Statue of Liberty when I'm trying to give my dog leash pressure. I want to manipulate that leash nice and even, so that way I got about, for my height, about 6'2", and his height, I got about, I don't know, 18 inches of leash between myself and him. So it's just enough for my height and my arm length to be able to give him pressure and reward. And that will be how you know you're on the right track, is when you can give him leash pressure and he will sit without saying anything. That doesn't mean just start not saying anything. I want you to continue getting these reps, telling him to sit after the leash pressure starts. Come. Sit. I want you to continue getting those reps in for the next several days. Some dogs, it might take a week of consistently doing this. Some dogs are going to pick it up in a session. But to condition what it truly means, it's going to take some time. Now, if you're hand feeding already, which you should be when we're going through this type of training with our dogs, this is how you can feed them dinner. Walk them around the house, sit. Give them a piece of kibble, handful of kibble, whatever you have time for. But this is a really simple way to integrate this into your life. All right, so that's going to be the sit. Now, going into the down's a little bit trickier just because it requires more movement from you. Right? So from you, it requires more movement in the sense of you have to kind of get down on his level a little bit. So this is where you can use a chair, you can get down on your knees, you can squat, whatever's most comfortable for you physically. But the idea behind this is, remember, it's pressure straight from the bottom of their chin to the ground. So as I give him this pressure, I'm going to turn the pressure on. Let's try to orient him this way. Turn the pressure on, tell him down. And then as soon as his elbows touch and he's in that position, I release and give him a treat, right? So it's going to look like this. Down. And this is where the clicker is great, or you're using your verbal yes, because I can click when he's in that moment, and then I can take my time getting that treat out. Good boy. Crazy pup. Come on. Then we reset him. Down. Good boy. So if he wants to get back up, we'll just play this game again. Good, set yourself up, right? Take your time with it. I like to rotate my slip leash so that way it's straight down. Down. And so for a really floppy puppy like that, I will keep the leash pressure on until they stop doing the gator roll and they're in the actual down position. So I know it might have been hard for you guys to see that. Nope. Down. Good. Try to orient him a different way so that way it's easier for y'all to see. Good. And remember, I'm not luring, so I'm putting that treat back in my pouch. I don't want a treat in my hand when I'm doing this because he already knows the command. Down. Church. Good boy. Down. Good. Come. Down. And the pressure is getting less and less, and it's getting quicker and quicker response. So that's ultimately what you're looking for with your dog. What I'm doing here is just a way to reset him. If he stands up on his own, great. I'll put that treat back in my pouch, grab the leash, pressure, down. Pressure stops. I mark, I'll give him a treat. But that tossing of the treat is just a good way for me to reset Rush, to get him going to do something else. Come. Comes over. I get to reset him, get to set him up for another rep. Come. When you get a young puppy like this, it's really easy for them to learn this because they just want to do anything for the treat. But he also is very smart, and he knows the down command is an important one, so he will just offer that sometimes on his own, just randomly, like spontaneously go into position if he knows I have a treat pouch on me and stuff like that. So just take your time with it. Wait and get those good reps, just like I am here. No. No. Good job. Down. Sit. Yes. No. Rider. No. Come. Good boy. Down. Good job. One thing that you can also do as well, guys, if you have a really treat-driven dog, and this is in balance, right? So I don't want you to be doing all these reps, but you can add it to your repertoire as you see fit. For a dog like Rush, who's really drivey, really wants the treat, this is called something like an in-drive sit or an in-drive down. And what it does is it gets him fixated on the treat that I'm going to throw. I'm not going to throw it across the room. I'm going to throw it a couple feet out of his reach. And it's up to me to hold onto the leash to make sure that he's not going to keep going over there or that he can't get to it, right? And then, come here. And then I'm going to give him the appropriate leash pressure to get him into one of our positions that we want him to go in. So if I'm getting him jacked up, hey, you want this, you want this? There it is, there it is. So I'm going to upward pressure, sit, release, click, and he can go get the treat at that point. Same thing, but now I'm going to flip it down. Get it, good boy. So the idea behind this is, it doesn't have to happen all the time, down. Because we can switch back and forth, right, to treats just on our body, on our person, and then every once in a while we can do an in-drive, sit or down. Get it. Good boy. Sit. Sit. Get it. Good boy. And it will be a minute maybe until he understands that that click is also a release to go get the treat, and that's totally fine. But that's just one way that we can add a little bit of context change to the drill. But I would like it to be mostly in the format of something like this. Down. Good, come. Something like that where we're just doing it with the treats on our person, not in our hands, asking for them to sit. Either sit or down, release that pressure, they get a treat. And now the last little version of the leash pressure is going to be more of that directional guidance. So this is where I like to use a place object, and I also like to use a general working area because I'm going to use this entire, basically half of the driveway pad here, just so I can stay on camera for y'all. But this is again, where we're upwards, is the sit that he's already doing, down, is the downward that he's already doing, and then now directionally, I can come, give him guidance to come with me, okay? So getting onto the place object is the next one that we're going to do. And this, ultimately, I want my dogs to get on the place object and lay down and curl up into a ball and take a nap. It is an indefinite command. I don't want a dog standing. I don't want a dog sitting. I want the dog just laying down on the place bed, hips flipped over, relaxing for an indefinite period of time. It helps us later on with more behavioral work, getting them calm in different areas. So to help us get there, what we're going to do though is start teaching our dog to associate place with leash pressure and then going straight into the down command. Come. So this is fairly simple in the sense of you're going to be giving pressure towards the object, and then as soon as your dog gets up on the object, you're going to then combine that directional pressure into a down pressure, so straight down from them. So again, I grab about 18 inches from his neck. Come, place, down. And I'm going to get a lot of reps of that right there, where I'm seemingly pulling them up onto the place object, rotating it right into the down, giving them down pressure until they turn it off by laying down. And that's going to be what I want you to do every single time he gets on a bed while you're working through this leash pressure phase. Every time he gets on a bed, leash pressure on, leash pressure down, it shuts off. Super, super simple, super effective. Now, let's show you that again. Come. Because I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we are going to talk about some other cool stuff here in a second. So again, if your dog is distracted, then you might need to quiet down the environment at the beginning stages. Like if Rush tries to go for sticks over there, he still is knowing that he can't pull against that leash pressure. Some dogs are going to really dig in. Some of your dogs are really used to pulling you around. So if you need to minimize your distractions so that way you can make it a little bit more effective. So remember, as I give him leash pressure, place, down. And I really want you to try and make it so that way the leash pressure doesn't really have a pause in between there. It's like pulling me onto the object and then it immediately, like continuously rotates into the down. So it's one continuous pressure. It just changes directions as we go. And so it will take some getting used to. And so don't worry if you're not doing it perfectly. We just want to try and be consistent with it. And it's always leash pressure on, place command, into the down. Come. Come. Let's try it from this angle. Come. And you guys can do exactly what I'm doing. You switch up your angle, you switch up your approach to the object. Pressure on, place, down. Just like that. Now we have our dog in the down command. One thing that I really want you to focus on that I preach all the time is the duration part and the movement from you part. So what this looks like is a couple things. His job is to do what? It's to stay on the object, stay laying down, stay settled. That's what I want him to do. Now he can do a few things to make it incorrect. He can stand up or sit up out of the down. That's wrong. He can also get off the place object. That's wrong. Right? So depending on what Rush does depends on my corrective actions. So if I start to move and we've done a lot of place training with him. So if he starts to follow me, I'm just going to make him mess up because I want to show you. So if I start to move and it's early on for you, your dog will most likely follow you. So if your dog follows, no. You give him pressure back, down, right back into the down. That no is the most important part with that sequence. If your dog jumps off, it's no, lead them pressure back, pressure right into the down, no, down. And I'm not going to reward on that one, okay? So this is advancement in your relationship. I should not have marked and rewarded on that first one. Now here's the thing, if you do mark and reward on a reset, you did not hurt anything, you did not ruin anything, it's totally fine. But in theory, your dog is not listening to the indefinite place and down command. There should not be stays being said constantly. There should not be a bunch of other commands given in order for Rush to be able to do this. So technically he's wrong if he gets off the bed or comes out of the down. He's wrong for that. I like to be very clear, and I will very rarely reward them on those resets. Very rarely, okay? If you do, you're not wrong, but I want you to avoid making a habit of resetting them and giving them another treat. Resetting them, giving them another treat. Because I want my dog at some point to understand that they're doing something incorrect, undesired, unwanted. And if they want the treat, they need to start getting along. They need to start going with the flow a little bit more. And if we can never make it past, I get to the end of my 10-foot leash, keep having to reset him, you just keep on going, keep on resetting him, and eventually you will, I promise you. And when you do get to the end of your 10-foot leash and he's been like that, that's where we do mark and we come in and reward him. So you will reward, but just be more intentional about your reward. What am I rewarding for? Don't just reward him for going back to the bed and doing the down the same every single time. So as we build up the skills throughout the week that you guys are doing this, you're going to also build up the criteria for what it takes to get a reward. And so as you move around, you're waiting for them to make a mistake. And if they get anxious and sit up, then you say, no, pressure down, down, release the pressure when he's there, move back out to whatever you were doing. If they do it again, no, pressure down, and then you say down, release the pressure, move back. So it will be a constant resetting dance with leash pressure until your dog decides to give in and settle, and then you mark and you can reward. But while you're forming these reps, you're going to set your dog up for those resets, those new repetitions. So I gave Rush the come command. I highly recommend that you give the recall command or some kind of a verbal marker for them to get off while you're doing the training of this, because then that gets them in the habit of leaving when mom or dad tells them to, not on their own accord, right? So I want it to be pressure, place, down. And now that they're placed and down, nothing will move you until I give you that recall command. I don't like to use the break off of place. I don't like to do that because it just gets them to a different level of excitement that I don't need them to get to. I like to keep it all kind of business-like, so I'll just tell him, come. Good. Pressure, place, down. Very nice. And his job is to stay there now again until I give him that recall command. I want you to use that, some kind of a verbal marker, because if we accidentally bump him with that leash pressure, like I'm pulling him towards me right now, I don't want him to get off the bed and come towards us for that. I know it's a little bit of a double standard, but I want that place down command to kind of be king, or eventually that down on the ground command to be king. This is going to happen quite often where we accidentally bump him, or a kid grabs the leash, or whatever the case is. And so I want him to be there like an anchor until I give him the come. Yes. And then I can get him to come to me, get off the bed, whatever the case is. So this is your intro to leash pressure. Start with that SIT, go to the DOWN, and then you can go to place. But I want you to really rep this out, feed them their dinner this way, and mess around with the amount of leash pressure it takes. This is setting a bedrock for a lot of good skills, including our e-collar training for those of you that are interested in doing the e-collar introduction. Good luck to you guys. Stay consistent with it. Stay patient. Let us know if you have any questions as always, and we'll see you in the next one.